The silence in Heavenwood, Arizona was a living thing, thick and suffocating. Then, a vibration, a single, unified buzz from every phone in town. In the blue glow of my screen, a stark message in block letters: emergency alert, do not look outside. My heart hammered against my ribs. Outside, the world was a void. No cars, no crickets, just that oppressive silence. A text from my neighbor, old Mr. Abernathy, popped up. Did you get it? I typed back, my fingers shaking. Yes, stay inside. His reply was just one word. They're here. Then, nothing. His chat bubble went dead. Suddenly, the power died, plunging my house into absolute darkness. The only light was the faint glow of my phone. The only sound, my own ragged breath. A soft scratching sound started at the window, a dry, whispery scrape that sent ice down my spine. It moved to the front door, a gentle, almost polite tapping. The alert had said not to look, but the silence that followed the tapping was worse than the noise itself. It was a waiting silence, a hungry silence. I had to know what was out there. Creeping to the window, my whole body trembling. I pulled the blind aside just a fraction of an inch. I wish I hadn't. I wish I had listened. Because now, I've seen them, and they've seen me. Thanks for watching. If you want more stories like this, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. The night was thick and moonless, the kind where the road ahead is just a narrow tunnel carved out by your headlights. I'm Daniel Brooks, and for the past 3 years, my office has been the driver's seat of this sedan. Rideshare driving isn't glamorous, but it pays the bills. Most nights are a blur of forgettable faces and small talk, but tonight was different. I was out on Old Creek Road, a winding stretch of asphalt that locals avoid after dark. My last drop-off was an hour ago, and I was heading home. That's when my phone chimed. Not a ride request, but a strange, insistent alert. A single, pulsing dot on an otherwise blank map, with the words, "Passenger awaiting pickup." No name, no destination, just that blinking dot, about 5 miles deeper into the woods. I tried to dismiss it. Probably a glitch, but it popped right back up. The chime a little louder this time, a little more urgent. Curiosity got the better of me. A fare is a fare, right? Plus, the dead end of Old Creek Road? Who would be out there? I sighed, made a U-turn, and followed the mysterious ping. The road got narrower, the pavement giving way to gravel. The woods pressed in on both sides, their branches like skeletal fingers scratching at my windows. My GPS signal died, but the dot on the alert screen kept pulsing. A steady, digital heartbeat guiding me forward. A knot of unease tightened in my stomach. This felt less like a pickup and more like a trap. I nearly drove right past it. An old, rusted gate, half swallowed by ivy, marked the entrance to a long-forgotten driveway. The dot on my phone was now directly on top of my car's icon. I had arrived. I killed the engine, and the sudden silence was deafening. The air was heavy, smelling of damp, earth, and decay. I stepped out of the car, my phone's flashlight cutting a weak beam through the oppressive dark. The driveway led to a dilapidated Victorian mansion, the kind you see in horror movies. Windows like vacant eyes, a porch sagging under the weight of time. And there, sitting on the top step, was a figure. It was a woman. She was dressed in what looked like an old-fashioned traveling cloak, her face hidden in the shadows of its hood. As I approached, she stood up, her movements slow and graceful. She didn't say a word, just pointed a gloved finger back at my car. The message was clear. She was my passenger, man. You called for a ride. My voice sounded small in the vast silence. She simply nodded. Where to? I asked, trying to keep my tone professional, trying to ignore the goosebumps prickling my arms. She didn't speak. Instead, she pulled a small, tarnished silver locket from beneath her cloak and handed it to me. Primera, opened Italiano. Inside, there was no picture, just a tiny, intricately folded piece of paper. I carefully unfolded it. It wasn't an address. It was a hand-drawn map, a crude sketch of a winding river and a single, marked tree. I looked up to ask what it meant, but she was already walking towards my car. She got into the back seat without a sound, pulling the door shut with a soft click. I stood there for a moment, the strange map in my hand, the locket cold against my palm. Every instinct screamed at me to get back in my car and drive away, leave her there. But the pulsing dot on my phone was gone. The app was back to normal, searching for rides. It was as if the alert had never happened. Taking a deep breath, I got back behind the wheel. The interior of the car felt colder. I glanced in the rearview mirror. All I could see was the deep shadow of her hood. "All right," I said to the silence. "Let's go." I didn't know how I knew the way, but I did. The crude map in my hand seemed to connect with some hidden part of my mind. I drove without GPS, turning onto forgotten dirt tracks and old logging roads that weren't on any modern map. We drove for what felt like hours. The world outside the windows a shifting canvas of dark trees and fleeting moonlight. My passenger remained completely silent. The only sound was the crunch of tires on gravel and my own ragged breathing. I tried to make small talk once or twice. "Been a while since anyone's been down this way," I'd offered. No response. The silence she carried was heavier than any conversation. Finally, we reached a riverbank, just like the one on the map. A massive, ancient oak tree stood alone by the water's edge, its branches twisted into the night sky. This was it, the destination. I turned off the engine. "We're here," I announced, my voice cracking slightly. She didn't move. I waited. A minute stretched into 5. The silence in the car became unbearable. I turned to look at her in the back seat. "Ma'am, this is the place from the map." Slowly, she lifted her head. The hood fell back, and for the first time, I saw her face. It was young, pale, and ethereal. But her eyes looked ancient, filled with a sorrow that seemed to eclipse the darkness around us. She gave me a faint, sad smile. And then, she started to fade. I blinked, thinking my tired eyes were playing tricks on me, but she was becoming translucent, like smoke. I could see the back seat through her form, her edges blurred, her features softened, and then, with a final, sorrowful look, she was gone. Just gone. The back seat was empty. The coldness in the car vanished, replaced by the normal, stale air of a well-used vehicle. I sat there, stunned, my heart hammering against my ribs. I looked at my phone. No ride history, no record of the trip. The only proof I had was the silver locket, still clutched in my hand. I opened it again. The folded map was gone. In its place was a new inscription, etched into the metal. It read, "Thank you for the ride home. I never drove Old Creek Road at night again. Sometimes, late at night, when I'm waiting for a fare, I'll take out the locket." I don't know who she was, or what unfinished business kept her waiting by that old mansion. Was she a ghost? A memory? I'll probably never know. But I do know this. Some passengers are looking for more than just a ride. Sometimes, they're just looking for a way home, even if home isn't a place you can find on any map. My name is Daniel Brooks, and this is just one of the stories from the driver's seat. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you on the next trip. Daniel's phone lights up with a new alert, this one addressed only to him. "Daniel, you already looked." His hands shake. He never opened the window. The morning commute was the usual symphony of chaos. Honking horns, the low thrum of 1,000 engines, and the distant wail of a siren somewhere in the concrete canyons of the city. I was in my beat-up sedan, nursing a lukewarm coffee, inching my way through the river of steel and glass. Just another Tuesday. That's when the strangest thing happened. My car radio, which had been stubbornly silent for the better part of a year, flickered to life. Not with music, not with the morning DJ's cheerful banter, but with a crackle of static that resolved into a single, chillingly calm voice. It was a voice devoid of any emotion, a flat, digital monotone. It said, "This is a test of compliance. Stay where you are." I blinked, glancing at the radio display. It was blank. I fiddled with the knob, trying to turn it off, but nothing happened. The voice repeated, the same words, the same lifeless tone. "This is a test of compliance. Stay where you are." Around me, other drivers were looking confused, some tapping their dashboards, others staring out their windows with bewildered expressions. It seemed I wasn't the only one hearing it. A collective, citywide prank. That's what I told myself. A very elaborate, very weird prank. Then I looked up, and the unease in my gut turned to a cold knot of fear. Ahead of me, the traffic light, which should have been red, was glowing a brilliant, unwavering green. And so was the next one, and the one after that, as far as the eye could see down the long avenue. A corridor of eternal green. My first instinct was to go. Green means go, right? It's ingrained in us from the first time we sit behind a wheel. My foot hovered over the accelerator, but the voice from the radio echoed in my mind. A digital ghost in the machine. Stay where you are. I looked at the car next to me. A woman in a business suit was on her phone, her expression frantic. She was probably describing the same thing. The driver behind me laid on his horn. A long, angry blast that seemed to say, "What are you waiting for? It's green." But was it? It was the asterisk. Color, asterisk. Green, yes, but it wasn't a signal to proceed. It was a command of a different sort. It was a trap. The voice side test of compliance. This was the test. Do you obey the voice, or do you obey the light? Do you trust the disembodied instruction, or the lifetime of conditioning? The honking grew more insistent. A few brave or impatient souls decided to ignore the voice. A sleek black SUV 2 lanes over surged forward, its driver looking smug. It sped through the first green light, then the second. For a moment, it seemed like he had made the right choice, the logical choice. Then, at the third intersection, it happened. We all saw Italiano. There was no truck running a red light. The SUV just stopped. Not a gentle stop, but a violent, instantaneous one. As if it had hit an invisible wall. The crunch of metal was sickening, even from a distance. The vehicle crumpled in on itself, its momentum extinguished in a brutal instant. Silence fell over a section of the street, the honking dying in our throats. The voice on the radio didn't falter. Non-compliance has been registered. Stay where you are. Panic, cold and sharp, began to spread. People started getting out of their cars, shouting, pointing. The illusion of a normal Tuesday was shattered. We were rats in a maze, and we had just seen what happened to the one that took the wrong turn. I gripped my steering wheel, my knuckles white. My heart was a frantic drum against my ribs. Stay where you are. The command was no longer a suggestion or a prank. It was a law, enforced by an unseen, unforgiving power. Hours crawled by. The sun climbed higher, beating down on the trapped sea of vehicles. Car engines were shut off to conserve fuel. The air grew thick with a tense, fearful silence, punctuated by the occasional sob or a muttered prayer. The voice remained our only companion, repeating its mantra on an endless loop. This is a test of compliance. Stay where you are. We tried our phones. No signal. The internet was down. We were in a complete information blackout, isolated in our metal boxers. Some people couldn't take it. A young man a few cars ahead of me threw open his door and just started running, not towards the intersection, but away, back the way we came. He scrambled over hoods and roofs, a desperate parkour of fear. He made it about 50 yards before he, too, just stopped. He didn't fall. He froze mid-stride, one leg in the air, arms outstretched, a perfect statue of terror. He didn't even twitch. He just stood there, a monument to the folly of disobedience. That's when we understood. The invisible walls weren't just at the intersections. The cage was all around us. The entire block, maybe the entire city, was a prison. We couldn't go forward. We couldn't go back. All we could do was stay. All we could do was comply. The test wasn't about choosing between the light and the voice. The test was about endurance. It was about breaking our will. Days bled into one another. The initial panic gave way to a grim, weary resignation. We formed a strange, fragile community. We shared what little food and water we had. We talked through open windows, learning names, sharing stories of the lives we had before they were put on pause. We were strangers, but we were bound by this shared, surreal nightmare. The man frozen mid-stride became a landmark. The crumpled SUV, a warning The endlessly green lights, a mocking promise of a freedom we could no longer reach. We never found out who or what was behind it. Was it a government experiment? An alien intelligence? A rogue? Aye, the voice offered no explanations, only the same single command. We stopped questioning. We stopped hoping for rescue. We just existed. We learned to live in the eternal green light, under the watchful silence of our unseen captors. We learned to comply. One morning, after what felt like an eternity, I woke up in my car to a new sound. It was the cheerful, vapid voice of a morning radio DJ, talking about the weather. I looked up. The traffic light ahead of me was red. My heart leaped. I turned the key, and my engine rumbled to life. Around me, others were doing the same, their faces a mixture of disbelief and dawning hope. Then the light turned green. Real green. The car in front of me hesitated, then slowly, cautiously, moved forward. It passed through the intersection without incident. Then the next car went. The spell was broken. As I drove away, my car fell back into the familiar rhythm of the city. Horns honked. People shouted. It was the same symphony of chaos as before, but now it was the most beautiful music I had ever heard. The radio kept playing pop songs, and I never heard the calm, emotionless voice again. But I never forgot it. The city went on, pretending it never happened. There were no news reports, no official statements. It was as if 1,000, 1,000,000 people had a shared hallucination. But I know what I saw. I know what we endured. And now, whenever I see a line of green lights stretching down a long road, a part of me still freezes. And I hear a faint, digital whisper. This is a test of compliance. And I wonder, was this the only test? Or was it just the first? Daniel slows down. Every house is dark but behind the windows. Human silhouettes stand motionless, staring outward. None of them move. None blink. A new emergency message fills the screen. Subjects who remain indoors will be spared. Subjects who are seen will be replaced. Daniel checks his mirror. The late-night drive home was a familiar ritual for Daniel. Streetlights painted fleeting gold strokes across his dashboard, a hypnotic rhythm against the backdrop of a gentle rain. His eyelids felt heavy, weighed down by a long day at the office. He yawned, stretching his arms against the steering wheel, and glanced at his rearview mirror. Just the empty back seat, slick with shadows. He turned his attention back to the road. The rhythmic thump of the windshield wipers a soothing metronome. Thump thump. Thump thump. He pulled up to a red light, the first one he'd hit in miles. The city was asleep. He leaned his head back, closing his eyes for just a second. The light turned green. As he pressed the accelerator, his gaze drifted to the rearview mirror again, a mindless habit. But this time it wasn't empty. A man was sitting in the back seat. Daniel's heart hammered against his ribs. He slammed on the brakes, the tires screeching on the wet asphalt. He whipped his head around. Nothing. The back seat was empty, just as it had been moments before. His breath came in ragged gasps. Just tired, he told himself. You're just tired seeing things. He took a deep, shaky breath and continued driving, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. A few blocks later, another red light. He forced himself not to look in the mirror. He stared straight ahead, focusing on the crimson glow, counting the seconds. 1, 2, 3. The light turned green. He drove on, a cold sweat trickling down his spine. He couldn't resist. His eyes flickered to the mirror. The man was there again. He was sitting perfectly still, his hands folded in his lap. But this time, Daniel could see his face clearly in the dim light. It was his own, an exact replica, from the small scar above his left eyebrow to the tired lines around his eyes. The only difference was the smile. It was a white, unnerving grin that didn't reach the eyes. Those eyes were cold, vacant pits. Daniel's blood ran cold. This wasn't fatigue. This was real. He wanted to scream, to swerve the car into a pole, anything to make it stop. but he was paralyzed by a fear so profound it felt like a physical weight pressing down on him. He gripped the steering wheel, his mind racing. Who was this man? What did he want? He could feel the doppelganger's gaze on the back of his neck, a chilling, possessive stare. The silence in the car was deafening, broken only by the engine's hum and the frantic beat of Daniel's own heart. He tried to rationalize a hallucination, a stress-induced psychotic break, but the image in the mirror was too solid, too real. The smiling man tilted his head slightly, as if amused by Daniel's internal struggle. The smile widened, showing a row of perfect, white teeth. Daniel's teeth. Daniel risked a quick glance over his shoulder. The seat was still empty. He looked back at the mirror. The doppelganger was still there, smiling that terrible smile. It was a predator, toying with its prey. "Who are you?" Daniel's voice was a choked whisper. The man in the mirror didn't answer. He simply raised a hand and waved, a slow, deliberate motion. It was Daniel's hand, his wedding ring glinting in the faint light. The gesture was friendly, almost casual, which made it 1,000 times more terrifying. Daniel's paranoia began to spiral. Was this a punishment, a harbinger of death? Or had he finally lost his mind completely? He felt a strange sense of detachment, as if he were watching a movie of his own life, unraveling. He drove aimlessly, the familiar streets of his city becoming a nightmarish labyrinth. Every red light was a new wave of terror. Every glance in the mirror confirmed the horrifying reality. The man was always there, a silent, smiling passenger on the road to nowhere. Daniel started talking to it, his voice trembling. "What do you want from me? Just tell me what you want." The doppelganger remained silent, its grin unwavering. It was enjoying this. It was feeding on his fear. Daniel felt a part of himself starting to fray, the edges of his sanity wearing thin. He thought about his wife, Sarah, waiting for him at home. What would he tell her? "Honey, there's a man in the car who looks exactly like me and won't stop smiling." He'd be locked away. He couldn't go home. Not like this. He couldn't let this thing near her. The thought of that cold, smiling face in his house, near his family, filled him with a new kind of dread, one that was colder and sharper than the fear for himself. He had to get rid of it. But how do you get rid of a reflection? An idea, desperate and insane, began to form in his mind. If the man was only in the mirror, maybe the mirror was the key. He looked at the smiling face one more time, its placid cruelty a mockery of his own terror. With a guttural yell, a mix of rage and desperation, Daniel balled his fist and smashed it into the rearview mirror. The glass shattered, exploding in a shower of tiny, glittering fragments. For a blissful second, there was nothing but the fractured image of the empty backseat. He'd done Italiano. It was over. A wave of relief washed over him, so potent it left him dizzy. He was breathing heavily, his fists throbbing and bleeding, but he was smiling. A real, genuine smile. He had won. He looked at the side mirror to check the traffic, his heart slowly returning to a normal rhythm. And then it stopped. Beating, breathing, everything stopped. Reflected in the side mirror was the face of his doppelganger, except this time, it wasn't smiling. It was looking at him with an expression of pure, unadulterated rage, and it wasn't in the backseat anymore. It was in the driver's seat. Daniel looked down at his own hands on the steering wheel. They felt foreign, like they belonged to someone else. He tried to look at his own reflection in the shattered rearview mirror, but all he could see were fragmented pieces. He brought a hand up to his face, touching his own skin. He felt a smile spreading across his lips, a wide, unnatural grin that didn't reach his eyes. In the reflection of his driver's side window, he saw his own face staring back, but the eyes were cold and empty. The other Daniel, the real Daniel, was gone, and as he drove the rest of the way home to Sarah, he couldn't stop smiling. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more. Morning news. Footage. Officials call it a system glitch. The town looks normal again. Every year, at 3:09 a.m., the alert returns. If you had it, you were already seen.